They warned us about 2025. These 7 prophecies are coming true. They said the world would change not with a bang, but with signs. A silent shift in the rhythm of nature, rivers running dry too soon, stars no longer aligning as they once did, and a rising unrest in the human spirit, as if the soul of the earth itself is stirring from a long slumber. In ancient scrolls and whispered traditions, 7 warnings were passed down, visions not of superstition, but of clarity, echoed across centuries. And now, one by one, those prophecies are unfolding not in the distant future, but in our everyday lives. From economic cracks and spiritual confusion to global fires and floods, these aren't just headlines, they're omens. You might think this sounds like a movie plot or an overblown conspiracy. But what if I told you these warnings were real, seen not only by mystics, but confirmed by modern science and hidden history? This is not fear-mongering. This is a call to awareness, a moment to see through illusion and reconnect with ancient wisdom. Before we journey deeper, take a breath and don't just watch this in silence. Like, subscribe, and share this message before it disappears into the endless scroll. This is the journey of wisdom, and if something stirs within you as you listen, leave a comment below. You're not the only one feeling the shift. Number 1. Natural disasters as signs. Why should we take these ancient prophecies seriously, especially now, as we step deeper into the unsettling reality of 2025? It's easy to dismiss such warnings as myths or superstition until the headlines start to resemble the pages of those very prophecies. Already, this year has unfolded with a strange intensity that is hard to ignore. Just this past May, the Pacific and parts of Asia were shaken by over 134 earthquakes, all above magnitude 5. These weren't isolated tremors, they came like a wave, triggering floods, igniting mysterious wildfires, and disturbing the balance of land and sea. In Myanmar, a devastating 7.7 magnitude quake shattered homes and lives in minutes, an event so powerful that even those who lived through it could barely describe the horror. Meanwhile, South Korea was swept by fast-moving wildfires that erupted without a clear cause, burning through forests and towns as if fueled by something more than wind and heat. In the United States, another story was unfolding, though largely hidden beneath the silence of mainstream media. 10 major storms, all given names that sound like relics of the ancient world, fierce and primal, swept across multiple states in just a single week. Homes were flattened, cities paralyzed, yet few connected the dots. That silence itself is telling. These aren't just natural disasters, they are eerily aligned with what prophets and seers have been warning us about for decades, even centuries. Consider Nostradamus, whose cryptic quatrains spoke of fire from the skies and the shaking of the earth, or Baba Vanga, the blind mystic of Bulgaria, who foresaw a year when nature would seem to turn against humanity. Japanese spiritualist Tatsuki's recurring dreams of tidal waves and strange weather patterns, or Indian mystic Anand's warnings of an age of disruption beginning in the mid-2020s. All these warnings, from different cultures, different eras, are suddenly converging. They were once dismissed as mere curiosities, the stuff of late-night documentaries and speculative books. But what happens when real events start echoing these warnings with chilling precision? What if we're no longer reading ancient prophecies, but living inside them? This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about awareness. The patterns are becoming too consistent to ignore, and the signs too precise to chalk up to coincidence. The Earth is reacting, whether to environmental neglect, spiritual imbalance, or simply the cycle of time that ancient cultures understood more deeply than we give them credit for. These disasters are not just random, they feel almost scripted, as if the planet itself is delivering a long-delayed response to everything humanity has done. And so, we have to ask, were we warned? And if so, did we choose not to listen? Because 2025 is not unfolding like any other year, it's demanding attention. Not just from governments and scientists, but from all of us. To look back at what was said, to reflect on the wisdom both ancient and ignored, and to finally understand that prophecy isn't about predicting doom. It's about offering a final chance to change course before the consequences become irreversible. Number 2. These 7 prophecies are coming true. Prophecy number 1. Fire rains from the sky. They warned us long ago, and it seems now the echoes of ancient prophecy are no longer distant folklore, but warnings that feel eerily close to home. The first of these chilling visions comes from the 16th century Vietnamese sage Nguyen Binh Kim, whose poetic words once seemed obscure but today strike with startling clarity. He wrote of a time when rice would no longer be shared in bowls, fire would fall from the sky, and June's rain would be the last of its kind. In 2024, Vietnam suffered a flood so catastrophic it tore apart the familiar rhythm of life, yet that may have only been the beginning. As 2025 unfolds the year, he called the death of the snake, the death of the tiger, a symbolic ending of cycles and the beginning of something more perilous. We find ourselves confronting what he described as wood consumed by fire. Now, what is this fire from the sky? Is it the thunder of missiles? Is it the invisible hand of solar flares? Or perhaps the unintended consequences of our own relentless pursuit of technological dominance turning against us? By mid-2025, it isn't just metaphor, it is reality. The European Central Bank has raised a dire warning. Prolonged drought threatens to shrink Europe's economy by up to 15%. Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands regions known for fertile lands are choking under the driest spring in a century. Crops are wilting, rivers are receding into cracked earth, and entire communities are losing their livelihoods. Yet while Europe burns, parts of Africa lie motionless under an unyielding sun. Madagascar and swaths of the Sahara have gone weeks without rain, and this scorched silence spreads. Across the globe in China, the north is turning to desert as southern provinces drown in unrelenting floods. Cities vanish beneath water, while billions in damages go beyond economics. They rewrite the emotional landscape of entire populations. And in Vietnam, the contradiction is so surreal it could be a dream. Scorching heat in daylight, flash floods at night. This chaos, this imbalance, forces us to ask deeper questions. What is truly causing this planetary disarray? Science now draws our attention toward the sun, not just for its life-giving warmth, but for the storms it hurls silently across space. Solar activity is surging, and while we can't see these solar flares, we feel their influence deeply. People across continents report strange symptoms: fatigue, headaches, confusion not just from stress, but from actual radiation disrupting our biology. As NASA confirms increased solar storms, we realize this isn't myth or exaggeration, it's the silent touch of the sun. In the words of the Buddha, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And indeed, the truth is becoming harder to ignore. Now more than ever, we must turn not just to external technologies, but inward to the wisdom of balance. Buddhist teachings remind us that all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Climate disruption, in this view, is not merely external crises. It reflects our internal disharmony with nature, with each other, and with the greed and delusion that drive our consumption. The earth is not angry, it is responding. Like a body with fever, it seeks to rebalance itself. Our role must shift from dominators to stewards, from takers to healers. Whether we interpret these changes as prophecy, as science, or as karma, they call us to act with compassion and clarity, reduce our excess, return to simplicity, reconnect with the earth. As the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said, "The earth is not just our environment, she is us. We are the earth." Let these prophetic warnings not just alarm us, but awaken us to live more mindfully, to walk with care, and to meet uncertainty not with fear, but with wisdom. Prophecy number 2. Solar activity and grid failure. Prophecy number 2 speaks of something many of us have begun to feel but can't quite explain: those strange headaches, restless nights, sudden mood swings, or unexplained fatigue that come and go without warning. Could these symptoms be tied to solar activity? Have you ever felt off for no clear reason during a time of high solar flare activity? These aren't just curiosities, they're clues. As we dive deeper into this warning, the pieces start fitting together. A name you may not hear in mainstream headlines, but whose predictions have caught the attention of millions, is Abhigya Anand. This young Indian astrologer made headlines in quieter corners of the internet when he predicted a global health crisis back in 2019, months before the world shut down. Many mocked him at first, but as events began to unfold just as he described, the laughter faded into murmurs. Now those murmurs are turning into serious conversations, because his forecast for 2025 isn't just another grim prediction. It's a warning about a potential tipping point for humanity. He calls it a cosmic intersection, a time when Earth will be heavily affected by intense solar radiation, triggering magnetic storms, the likes of which we've never seen. But what does that mean for your daily life? What happens when the very systems we depend on, the internet, GPS, power grids, satellites, suddenly go dark? We're not talking about a few hours without power, but the possibility of entire regions losing access for days or even weeks. Think about it. How much of your life is connected to the grid? From communication to banking, transportation to basic services, our digital world is vulnerable. And this isn't a conspiracy theory, it's something NASA and global space agencies are already bracing for under what's known as Solar Cycle 25. The sun, while essential to life, also carries with it unpredictable power. When solar flares burst, they release charged particles that can disrupt Earth's magnetic field and damage critical infrastructure. And while we can't stop the sun, we can prepare for how we live under its influence. Have you noticed how dependent we've become on digital systems to function, connect, and even feel secure? What happens to our sense of self when we lose that digital scaffolding, even temporarily? In Buddhism, we are reminded to practice mindfulness, not just as a meditation, but as a way of life. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When we are mindful, deeply in touch with the present moment, our understanding of what's going on deepens, and we begin to be filled with acceptance, joy, peace, and love." So what if this warning, this prophecy, is not just about fear, but about awareness? What if it's an invitation to reflect on what we rely on, what we take for granted, and what we need to change? The lesson here is not panic, but preparation, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. We must learn to live more simply, to reconnect with the real world around us, and not just the virtual one in our pockets. Have backup plans, yes, but also cultivate inner peace and resilience. Start now by spending time offline, nurturing face-to-face relationships, learning practical skills, and grounding yourself in what doesn't rely on power outlets. Ask yourself, if everything shut down tomorrow, what remains? That question holds the seed of transformation. Because when we prepare with wisdom rather than react in fear, we turn prophecy into purpose and chaos into clarity. If you've watched up to this point, You're clearly someone who senses that something deeper is unfolding in our world. Comment below with Awakened 25 to show you're ready to face the truth and prepare for what's ahead. Stay with us. Until the end, there are still powerful revelations that could change how you see the future. Prophecy number 3. Spiritual and geopolitical shifts. Prophecy number 3 takes us deeper, beyond natural disasters and solar flares, into the realms of human systems, spiritual awakenings, and massive geopolitical shifts. And this is where things become not only eerie, but deeply relevant to each of us. You see, Abhigya Anand's predictions don't stop at solar activity. He warns that this solar unrest will unfold alongside something far more earth-shaking, a slow and subtle unraveling of the world economy, starting like a hairline crack beneath a dam, barely noticeable at first until suddenly it snaps. He speaks of mass migrations, entire currencies collapsing, and a global superpower, one deeply entrenched in digital control and military dominance, falling almost overnight. Which nation, he doesn't specify, but you might be asking yourself, what country today fits that description? A country so influential that if its voice went silent, the entire balance of power would shift. Now here's where the pieces begin to connect, and where a forgotten prophecy from centuries ago suddenly comes alive. In the early 1700s, a Japanese mystic named Jikuan Ascetic, who meditated under waterfalls and fasted for visions, penned a scroll called The Cry of the Dragon's Tail. In it, he warned of a time when the sun will spit fire, and the moon will hide its face, and man's towers of light will flicker and fall. At the time, scholars dismissed it as symbolic poetry. But today, in an age of global power grids, digital infrastructure, and cities that live and breathe through electricity, Jiku's words sound more like a chilling forecast than metaphor. So how does this connect to what's happening now? Look at the numbers, not just the narratives. In the first half of 2025, Asia's economy has shown surprising resilience. While many Western nations continue to struggle with inflation, political unrest, and the aftermath of environmental disasters, Eastern powers, particularly India and Vietnam, have been quietly gaining strength. They've been stockpiling gold, tightening their supply chains, and reinforcing economic stability. Is this mere coincidence, or is it possible they've been preparing for something they were warned about? Something passed down through generations, something written in the stars or whispered by sages long ago. Meanwhile, in Russia, another layer of mystery unfolds. Within the walls of a remote monastery, writings said to be from Gregory Rasputin, the so-called mad monk of Tsarist Russia, have resurfaced. In those pages, he warned of a black eclipse in a year when the bear turns its gaze from Europe to the south. And in March 2025, satellite footage revealed an unusually high concentration of Russian naval forces in the southern seas. Could this be the movement he foresaw? Is it just military strategy, or a sign of something more ancient, more fated? And it doesn't stop there. In April, something unexplained appeared in the skies over Argentina, a dark streak across the atmosphere, like a tear in the heavens. Scientists ruled out meteors or jet contrails. Then, electromagnetic sensors in Chile recorded a spike so powerful it disrupted radar systems. Experts are still scratching their heads. But those who study ancient prophecies recognize the signs. Nostradamus, writing in cryptic quatrains hundreds of years ago, described a black torch that falls in spring, bringing a summer without breath. In another line, he speaks of fire in the heavens, rivers reversed, and the proud city trembling beneath scorched clouds. In the year the moon hides thrice, the old empire shall fracture. These aren't just vague images anymore, they're aligning with actual events. In 2025, we will experience 3 lunar eclipses, Could the proud city be New York or London, symbols of global finance brought to their knees by cyber attacks, war, or an economic implosion? It's no longer just one prophet or one culture speaking. It's dozens of voices from different eras and different lands, all warning of a similar pattern, converging now, in this moment. So, the real question for you is this: why 2025? Why are so many of these ancient messages pointing to this year? Is this just a coincidence, or could it be a final window, a cosmic deadline for awakening before massive and possibly irreversible changes take hold? Are you prepared to look beyond the noise of daily headlines and ask what these patterns are trying to tell you? Could these be spiritual wake-up calls disguised as economic headlines or natural events? The Buddha once said, "There are only two mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting." So maybe this isn't the end, but a beginning, a chance to awaken, to rethink our attachments to power, wealth, and comfort, and to return to something more grounded, more real. The message here is not to be afraid, but to be aware. Pay attention to the world, but also to your inner landscape. Because the real shift might not just be out there in geopolitics or prophecies, it might be within you. Prophecy number 4. Antarctica and hidden knowledge. Prophecy number 4 leads us to one of the most mysterious and remote places on Earth, Antarctica. A land that, for most of modern history, has been seen as nothing more than a frozen wasteland, untouched and unimportant. But ancient texts hint at something more. In the mystical writings of the Zohar, a foundational work of Jewish mysticism, there's a cryptic passage that speaks of a hidden land that shall rise when the world forgets itself. For centuries, scholars dismissed it as symbolic, perhaps a riddle, maybe a metaphor for spiritual blindness. But as we step deeper into the shifting landscape of 2025, that interpretation is being challenged. The spotlight is now turning toward Antarctica, and not because of climate change alone. Recent satellite scans have revealed strange magnetic anomalies underneath the ice disturbances, not tied to weather patterns or tectonic shifts, but something magnetic and possibly mechanical, as if a dormant system buried deep below is slowly stirring. Multiple countries have increased their military activity in the region, flying over zones that have long been classified as restricted. And while mainstream news avoids the topic, satellite imagery has captured symmetrical structures beneath the ice, too precise to be natural formations. Some call it fantasy, others see it as a potential revelation, a discovery that could change everything we think we know about human history, our origins, and our spiritual journey. Whistleblowers, often dismissed by official sources, claim something has awakened in the south. What could that mean? Could this be the moment Nostradamus warned us about when he referred to the continent where the blind eye will open? Could Antarctica be the land buried by time, now preparing to speak again? These ideas may sound extreme, but ask yourself, why are so many ancient prophecies from different cultures pointing to this specific time? Why now, in 2025? The answer may lie not in external events, but in our internal condition. According to these seers, 2025 isn't just about technological disruption or political instabilities, about a shift in consciousness. The real warning is not about disaster, but about disconnection. We've become strangers to the earth, living in artificial rhythms, constantly plugged into machines and pulled away from the deeper, quieter truths of existence. As the Buddha once taught, to understand everything is to forgive everything. Perhaps these revelations, whether physical or spiritual, are opportunities to remember who we are beneath the layers of distraction, to reconnect with ancient wisdom and the earth itself. And so, this prophecy about Antarctica is not simply a curiosity, it's a mirror. It reflects how far we've drifted and how urgently we need to come back to center. Ask yourself, have you been living in alignment with nature, or have you, too, drifted into synthetic habits that pull you further from peace? The earth, it seems, is speaking again, not in words but in signals, and the wise will pause and listen. The lesson here is not fear, but awareness. This is your invitation to wake up, to question not just what lies beneath the ice, but what lies dormant within you, waiting to be reawakened. As the great Zen master Dogen once said, "Do not follow the ideas of others, but learn to listen to the voice within yourself." And in a time when the world forgets itself, perhaps true wisdom begins in remembering who you've always been. Prophecy number 5. The Hopi Blue Star Prophecy. Prophecy number 5 brings us to one of the most sacred and powerful warnings ever passed down from an indigenous people, the Hopi Blue Star Prophecy. The Hopi, Native American guardians of wisdom from the American Southwest, spoke with clarity and conviction about a time they called the Day of Purification, when the earth would begin to cleanse itself of imbalance, greed, and disconnection. They warned that just before this cleansing, a blue star would appear in the sky, a celestial messenger, signaling a global transformation, not a myth, but a message meant to prepare us. And now, in early 2025, Comet C 2024 G3 Atlas, with its unmistakable blue tail, briefly streaked across our skies and was visible even in the daylight. NASA tracked its trajectory through the International Space Station and SOHO instruments, and for a moment it captured the world's attention. Then, like so many warnings, it vanished from headlines, dismissed or forgotten. But for those who listen to ancient wisdom, this wasn't just another comet. It may well have been the Hopi Blue Star, the sign they spoke of that signals a turning point for humanity. According to the prophecy, once this star appears, the earth will shake 3 times before the purification begins. So far, in just the first part of 2025, the earth has done just that. A magnitude 7.6 earthquake struck beneath the Caribbean Sea. A 7.7 shattered the land in Myanmar, and a 7.5 erupted under the frigid waters of the Drake Passage near Antarctica. These aren't minor tremors, they're global signals, 3 great rumblings that seem to echo exactly what the Hopi said would happen. So the question is, what are these quakes really shaking? Are they just geological events, or are they waking something deeper in us? The Hopi weren't just warning about the planet, they were warning about us, about how far humanity has strayed from balance with nature, with each other, and with ourselves. In Buddhist teachings, there's a deep understanding that imbalance leads to suffering. The Buddha said, "Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life." And this is what the Hopi and many other ancient cultures have always urged us to remember. When we lose touch with the sacredness of life, the earth will respond not to punish, but to purify. Are we listening, or are we still distracted by the noise of modern life? These signs aren't meant to cause fear, they are meant to awaken us. When the earth speaks through quakes, and the skies send signs like a blue comet, what will it take for us to turn inward and ask, how can I live more in harmony? What can I let go of to help restore balance in my home, in my community, in this shared world? The truth is, every prophecy is not just about the world outside, but about the world within. The message here is clear: this is not the end. It is a sacred invitation to begin again. So take this time to reflect, reconnect, and return to simplicity, because, as the Hopi elders say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. The warnings were given, and now they're coming true. If you're feeling the urgency and clarity this video brings, drop a truth seeker in the comments to let us know you're awake. Keep watching, the final prophecies may be the most revealing yet. Prophecy number 6, Prophecy of Oblivion. Prophecy number 6 may be the most unsettling of all, not because it speaks of fire or floods or war, but because it speaks of something quieter, more dangerous forgetting. Not just forgetting facts or names, but forgetting what it truly means to be human. In a mysterious medieval scroll attributed to an anonymous writer known only as the Veiled One, a haunting line stands out. The end will not come with screams or fire, but with silence. When the world forgets what it means to be human, the great correction will begin. And if we take a moment to look around, isn't that already happening? We've forgotten how to listen to the earth, how to sit in silence without needing to scroll, swipe, or click. We've stopped listening to each other. Human connection has been filtered through algorithms, likes, and artificial intelligence, all wrapped in the illusion of progress. But what is the cost of that illusion? What do we lose when we start believing that machines are more reliable than human touch, or that digital avatars can replace the richness of face-to-face conversation? As Buddhist wisdom reminds us, in separateness lies the world's greatest misery, in compassion lies the world's true strength. And yet, in this so-called age of connection, many feel more isolated than ever. This prophecy warns that the real threat isn't some external catastrophes, a slow erosion of soul. The rise of AI and our increasing dependence on technology may very well be, in prophetic terms, a final test for our consciousness. Gopi Krishna, a renowned 20th century mystic and Kundalini researcher, saw this coming. He spoke of a false awakening, a kind of spiritual detour where humanity would believe it was ascending into enlightenment, when in truth it was disconnecting from nature, from spirit, from the very essence of life. He warned of a technological rapture, a seductive future where people would feel they were rising, gaining power, expanding their minds, yet all the while drifting further from the source of true vitality. And chillingly, he marked the year 2025 as the beginning of this mass psychological inversion. That time, my friend, is now. Have you felt it? That subtle sense that the world has shifted? The pressure in your chest when you step outside and feel the air isn't quite right? The strange stillness in crowds? The sense that something is deeply off, but no one can quite put it into words? These feelings aren't just personal, they're signals. They are the earth and the spirit within you whispering that something sacred is being lost. Bhutan, this is key, the prophets never spoke in absolutes. They never said the future was fixed. They left us with choices, not just warnings, but paths to return, hidden doorways to realignment. They told us that even at the edge of forgetting, there is still a way back to remembrance. The Buddha taught, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. This is our path now. In the next prophecy, the 7th and final one, we'll explore what that choice looks like, what it means to wake up while others sleep, to step into awareness while the world fades into noise. But before we get there, let me ask you directly, have you noticed this disconnection too? Not just in the world around you, but in your own heart. Do you feel a quiet longing to return to something more real, more rooted, more alive? If you're still here listening, it means you were meant to hear this. Not by accident, but by timing. Stay with me, because the final message isn't written in stone, it's alive. It's been waiting for you, carried through generations, whispered in symbols, dreams, and stars, waiting for the moment when you were ready to remember. Prophecy number 7. The Great Divide, Consciousness Split. Prophecy number 7, perhaps the most profound of all, speaks not of outer chaos, but of an inner choicer moment in time when humanity is no longer divided by borders or wealth, but by consciousness itself. And now, in the heart of 2025, that message seems to be surfacing from every direction, echoing through ancient texts and modern intuition alike. From Nostradamus to the Mayans, from Baba Vanga to the Oracle of Delphi, the warnings align with unsettling precision, each pointing toward what they called the Great Divide. In the cryptic writings of the 12th century mystic Hildegard of Bingen, she describes a second sky opening above the earth, a rift not in geography but in dimension, a spiritual split, a sorting of souls not through judgment but through vibration. She wrote, "Those of the silent light shall rise, while the dim and heavy fall asleep with the earth." It may sound like science fiction, yet when we pause and look closer, we begin to notice something already happening. All over the world, ordinary people are reporting vivid, repeating visions of two earths, one cold, lifeless and grey, filled with noise and disconnection, and another that is vibrant, organic and deeply alive. In these dreams, there is no spoken choice, only an unspoken pull, a decision made not with logic, but with energy, intention, and awareness. This aligns with ancient teachings found across cultures, from the Vedic scriptures of India to the Hopi prophecies of North America, to the Dogon people of Maliach, describing a future where humanity faces not an external collapse, but a conscious separation. Could it be that the divide is already forming? That in 2025 we are witnessing not the destruction of the world, but the filtering of souls based on frequency, on how we think, feel, and live? Nostradamus may have hinted at this in his lesser-known quatrains, particularly one that says, "When fire lights the unseen sky and shadows dance within the minds of men, two roads shall emerge, one false, one free, but the sleepers will not see the sign." And what is the sign? Some believe it already came on April 8, 2024, when a total solar eclipse crossed North America, perfectly intersecting the path of the 2017 eclipse, forming a massive X across the continent. To ancient cultures, such alignments were never seen as coincidences. They were cosmic verdicts, moments of reckoning. And now, in 2025, another rare eclipse will shadow the southern hemisphere, this time displaying what scientists are calling a black ring phase, a rare and ominous halo where the moon appears surrounded by a dark aura. Spiritual teachers refer to it as the crown of absorption, a sign spoken of in ancient Persian texts, but absorbed into what? A spiritual awakening, a trap disguised as progress, a digital reality so seamless that people willingly trade essence for convenience. You see, the most dangerous prophecy was never about solar flares or war. It was this: they will no longer need to be enslaved by chains, for the people will chain themselves with light. These haunting words come from an unnamed 14th century Sufi poem, but in today's world, it feels shockingly relevant. What is the light that binds us now? Screens, alerts, surveillance systems wrapped in the glow of modern comfort. The warnings were never meant to paralyze us. They were offered as clues, as reminders of who we truly are beneath all the distraction. The ancient prophecies all agree. This is not about preparing bunkers or gathering gold. It's about inner readiness, cleansing the heart, clarifying the mind, and remembering the soul. This moment we face is not a punishment. It is a spiritual filter. And now, the decision lies with each of us. Which path will you take? The path of sleep or of awakening? The path of illusion or essence? Because if the skies darken and the earth trembles, if time itself bends into a new shape, as many now say is happening, you must know not just your name or title, but your true essence. That essence, and only that, will carry you through the Great Divide. So now, after all these signs, all these warnings across centuries and cultures, the question remains: what will you choose? Not out of fear, but out of awareness. Because 2025 isn't just a year, it may be a turning point, a moment for humanity to awaken, or to continue sleepwalking through distraction. These prophecies don't ask us to run, they ask us to remember. At The Journey of Wisdom, we're here to explore these deeper truths, not just through stories of the past, but through the choices we make in the present. If this video stirred something within you, don't let it fade away. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the upcoming videos. Together, we'll keep walking this path of reflection, awakening, and ancient wisdom made real. And remember, this journey isn't about the end. It's about how we choose to live right now. Thank you for watching, and may you walk in awareness, balance, and peace.